In China, we have a different way to count numbers. We can use just one hand to count 1 to 10. Let's take a look. 1
أزل في اللون and let's learn new numbers in Tamazight. Yan.
Molweni, kule video sofunda ukubala. In this video we learn how to count. Nye.
One.
Eins.
Ein.
Yen.
What I just demonstrated there is a word that some scholars say is pointing to the fact that the Levantine people, the people who live in Asia, spread farming through Asia, Africa, and Europe, and that there's remnants, leftover words that show that this macro family or these macro families, the Indo-European, Austra-Asian, and Bantu languages are actually a offshoot of this. Now, obviously, I don't believe this, but the funny part is there's people in my chat who don't believe it either, but they should because they represent their side. The side they represent is the side that farming spread from the Middle East to the whole world. Now, if you believe this, then you should believe what I just showed you, which says that the spread of farming spread languages throughout the entire world. Alexander Militarev and the people who support his theories have a theory that farming went from the Middle East and spread to Europe, Africa, and Asia. And some of these guys go as far as to say that the Bantu language, some of the Indo-European languages, and the Austra-Asian languages, which are in parts like India and those type of areas, have loan words from the Levantian era. Now, I would think that most people who would challenge me on the idea that farming started in Africa would know this. So look at these comments. These people are suggesting that the Bantu language has no Afro-Asiatic influence on it, which means they're arguing against their own point. These people are saying that the idea that the Afro-Asiatic languages started in the Levant. That's what they're saying. Like they support this idea that the Afro-Asiatic language started in the Levant, but then they debunk their strongest point, which is that you can find words in the Bantu language in Europe and in Asia that come from Afro-Asiatic. But the reason why they're going against this is because they do not understand their own points. Because I made the point, they think that it supports me. So the most important part of this that I put up here is the last part where it says, Jared Diamond and archaeologist Peter Bellwood have taken up Militarev's argument as part of their genetic argument that the spread of linguistic macrofamilies such as Indo-European, Bantu, and Austroasiatic can be associated with the development of agriculture. They argue that there is clear archaeological support for farming spreading from the Levant into Africa via the Nile. Now think about what I just read there. That's a second mainstream idea. The first mainstream idea is that basically that Afro-Asiatic comes from Africa. This agrees with them. Their concept, the concept of the Eurocentrists and the Asian centrists, is that the Bantu languages were affected by the Levantine languages because of the spread of farming, and that there's words which are loan words which are in the Bantu language. But when I presented that as evidence they go against it. They fight against it. In my video where I say that I can see some similarities between Asiatic languages, Afro-Asiatic languages, and Bantu languages, they fight against it. And the reason they fight against it is because they don't even understand their own argument. Their argument says that the Bantu people are affected by the language expansion. Now, of course, this is highly fought back by what they would call Afrocentrists, where we say that the Bantu language is a language isolate and that a lot of the loan words actually come from the Chadic version of the Afro-Asiatic branch, and that has to do with a long-term touching with each other, not a teaching, because a lot of the Chadic people were not farmers themselves for a long time. So on both arguments, think about this for a second. On both arguments of the Afro-Asiatic languages, it says that the Bantu, African Bantu language, and on the Levantine side, that the African Bantu languages have been affected. This is not a side view. This is a mainstream view on both sides. Both ideas say that the Bantu languages have been affected by Afro-Asiatic languages. Both. So I want you guys to go back and watch my video that I showed you that's called Afro-Asiatic Debunked. Again, I don't debunk the Afro-Asiatic languages. I merely point out some similarities. And I'm going to show you one here, which some people have used as evidence that the Levantine languages spread from Europe to the Berbers to Bantu to Asian languages. And we're gonna use the number 1 as an example.
In China, we have a different way to count numbers. We can use just one hand to count 1 to 10. Let's take a look.
أزر في اللون and let's learn new numbers in Tamazight. Yan.
Molweni, kule video sofunda ukubala. In this video we learn how to count. Nye.
One.
Eins.
Ein.
Yen.
It's similarities like these that have made them believe that these theories might be correct. But of course, I only showed one side of it, which is the Bantu side of it. And of course, they fought against me because they do not understand that this is their strongest point. They don't understand that they should be supporting the idea that the Bantu language was in fact affected by Afro-Asiatic. To stress this, I will read a comment by someone in my chat who thinks that he's debunking me when he's really supporting me. So he says, Arabic shares absolutely nothing in common with Bantu languages. Bantu is a branch of a Niger-Congo family for starters, not a separate linguistic family itself, and there are no similarities between the Bantu languages, ancient Egyptian, and any of the Semitic languages. Any similarities between Zulu and Arabic can likely be attributed to borrowings or contact between Swahili and Zulu speakers. Grammatical differences between Bantu languages, ancient Egyptian, and Semitic languages include grammatical gender, which is absent in all Bantu languages completely. There is no such thing as masculine, feminine, or neuter in the Zulu languages. Adjectives, as far as I know, do not have to be conjuncted to match the gender of a person being referred to, like in Spanish when addressing a man or a woman in some way, bonita or bonito, Carlo, whatever. All of these languages are completely different. Ancient Egyptian and Arabic both have verb, subject, object, word order, and Niger-Congo syntax is subject, verb, object, only further proving there are no similarities between these languages other than those belonging to the families such as Arabic and Egyptian. Now, the funny part about what he's saying in this diatribe is that he's sort of debunking the people that I just showed you. The people I just showed you say there is similarities between these languages because of the spread of farming. And he's on the Eurocentric side. So you're debunking people who agree with you. You're saying there's no similarities and all the similarities can be chopped up to modern times. Well, that means that you agree. But if we look at the simple things that he says, like, for example, he says there's no grammatical difference. He doesn't mention that the prefix infix thing that I mentioned before, the fact that Egyptian and Arabic and some Semitic languages rely heavily on prefixes and suffixes. And secondly, he then jumps to SVO and SOV, and he says that languages that have this cannot be related to each other, which I showed that Dutch and English are different. One has subject, object, verb, and the other has subject, verb, object, and they are related. So that point is bullcrap. Now, one that he does bring up is the gender thing. Yeah, I didn't say that the languages are identical. I just said that the claim by these people is that there's a borrowing. And I showed this because I don't like to not show other people's strongest arguments. These are your arguments, not mine. These are arguments made by scholars who support the agrarian spread from the Middle East, and you're debunking them. And the reason you're debunking them is because you think I'm trying to suggest that the Bantu people are Egyptians, which was not. I was just saying that they have a relatively long history together, and that the spread of the Bantu languages, the loan words, didn't come from Arabic, but they obviously would have the similarity. They came from languages like Hausa, the Chadic branch of Afro-Asiatic. That's where the loan words would have come from. And that a lot of them have nothing to do with farming, as these guys suggest. Instead, they have something to do with very basic words that have nothing to do with farming. But your view should be that the Afro-Asiatic words that have to do with farming are the ones that led to the creation of the Bantu languages. That's what they believe. They will believe that the Indo-European, the Austroasiatic, and the Bantu languages are that the Afroasiatic language family is the biggest language family of all. That's your belief. Why are you countering it?